you very much. And I see we have an intimate group here, so I think what I will try to do is move through the content I had pretty quickly so that we can have some really good time for Q&As, so I can be sure to answer your questions. First of all, thank you, Shannon, and the Great Plains Tribal Tribal Chairman's Health Board for inviting me to speak and on what's one of my favorite topics, farm to school. Let's see here. There we go. So I'm going to just spend a little bit of time on what is farm to school, go through some tribal farm to school examples, and then I'm going to dig into one of the resources that Shannon mentioned, which is our farm to school grants, which are actually currently open right now, and so we're encouraging folks to apply. Oh, it looks like oh, okay, sorry about that. So this slide is a little goofy here because it looks like my animation isn't working, but we typically think of farm to school as 3 C's. We think of the cafeteria, so getting local fresh food into the lunchroom and the meals that students are eating at school. So cafeteria is the first C. We think of the classroom as the second C, so weaving in food education into the everyday learning experience for students. And the third C is community, so engaging community members in this farm to table process. And school gardens fit squarely in the middle of those 3 C's because gardens at schools can provide food for the cafeteria. They can be a classroom in themselves or complement classroom learning, and they tend to engage the community. So when we're talking about farm to school, we're talking not just about local food in school meals, but we are talking about those 3 C's that all complement each other. So when we think of farm to school, yes, we think of the school setting, but we're also talking about summer meals. So oftentimes summer is when a lot of the bounty is available, and we do have a lot of communities participating in USDA's summer meal program, providing free meals to kids during the summer alongside enrichment opportunities. We're also talking about preschool, so reaching our youngest eaters as they're forming their eating habits. Like I mentioned, we are talking about school gardens, but other ways to engage kids in where their food comes from, such as farm or garden field trips, actually bringing farmers to the school itself, and providing that nutrition education to tie healthy eating into the picture. So that just gave you an overview of what farm to school can look like. I'd like to give you a couple of specific examples. This picture is from Ferguson, Missouri. They, with their farm to school program, really wanted to engage high school youth and provide culinary training skills for high schoolers as a job training program. So they actually cut and processed local food throughout the summer through a summer employment program, and then that food was preserved for use later on in the school year. Greeley, Colorado is one of actually the most agriculturally productive counties in the country. So their farm to school program focuses a lot on volume of local products in the school meals. So they're working with a ton of different products, a ton of volume, so that they can give back to the farmers who make up their community and whose kids go to their schools. This is a picture, some pictures from a high school aquaponics program in Livingston, Montana. They wanted to find a way to engage high schoolers in hands-on science projects. So they decided to design a system to grow fish in conjunction with fruits and vegetables in order to teach their students pH levels and nutrient cycles and even business practices as the students actually sold the fish to restaurants in the community and into their school meal program. And finally, these pictures are from Kansas City, where their school district actually did farm to school through the lens of culinary training for staff. So they wanted to build some of these scratch cooking techniques in staff, and they did so through incorporating local foods. My point is that farm to school can actually serve a number of different purposes for a school district, and it can look very differently depending on what your school or community needs. So why is USDA involved in farm to school? Well, actually in 2010, as part of the child nutrition reauthorization, there was a section that created a farm to school program at USDA with 3 main roles: distribute grants, provide training and technical assistance, and disseminate research and data. And so the way our team does this is through our regional farm to school leads. So you'll see here, each of us has a region. My region is the darker green region there. And I also wanted to point out that my colleague Samantha, who's based in Atlanta, is actually our tribal liaison. So we work together with her when we're providing support and assistance to our tribal partners. And she has been a really great liaison to some of the national tribal partners engaged in farm to school nutrition and local food work. So that's a snapshot of our team. So I wanted to take a minute here to provide some examples specifically of farm to school programs in Native communities and farm to school programs that serve the purpose of highlighting, let's say, traditional language or engaging tribal youth. So this first one here is from Cherokee Central in North Carolina. Their goal with their farm to school program is to reinforce a lot of the language lessons and immersion that they're doing in their school meal program. So this is a picture from their garden. They also have a lot of signage in the cafeteria itself and around the school. They have a robust junior Iron Chef program where students actually do traditional food taste testing in the cafeterias. You can see that I loved it, I tried it. Voting board in the back. And this kind of really brings in students in their culinary arts program, which is really robust in this school district. This is a picture of Calusa Indian Community Hand-in-Hand Learning Center, where they use the life cycle of plants in their school garden to teach all sorts of lessons to the preschoolers as well as the families whose children attend the preschool. For example, they provide a basket of fresh vegetables and herbs for children to bring home during the fall. As you can see, the kids are involved in the planting process, weeding, watering, and harvesting all throughout the year. And one of their big events is open house every year, where the kitchen personnel actually provide cooking demonstrations and offer healthy snacks. So all throughout the year, they're really encouraging exploration, discovery, and a love of nature through their gardening, integrated gardening program. Another example, the InterTribal AG Council in Michigan hosted hosted a Great Lakes Native Youth and Food and Agriculture Summit in Michigan. I'm sure many of you already know this and perhaps were involved in it, but this was the beginning farmer emphasis conference, and incorporating farm to school into beginning farmer training programs into their business plans was a part of this conference. And Samantha is the one there, my colleague who I mentioned, is the one kind of taking a picture in the background of this demonstration of skinning a beaver. This whole summit was centered on Native youth in food, but of course, elders were the ones largely involved in the teaching and training. So there was some traditional hot chocolate here on the right, and you can see the beaver cooking. This was a group that received one of our farm to school grants to help put on this conference. And this is a Native chef working with youth as part of the summit. They made bean pudding and squash and cooked outdoors using traditional methods. Looks like she's holding the buffalo meatball that they made. These are some pictures from the Star School in Arizona, about 25 miles east of Flagstaff. It's an off-the-grid K-8 school, pre-K-8 school that uses local food in school meals. They have a partnership with a nearby family farm where they grow squash, pumpkins, melons, greens, and corn for the school meal program. They also incorporate a number of educational programs to complement that. You can see here, again, elders working with youth to prepare traditional cornbread, and a site visit to a farm there on the left. And bow and arrow cornmeal is actually produced here in Colorado and by the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, and it's incorporated in a number of school cafeterias around Colorado. And I know that they were actually trying to get into the USDA commodity program such that this product would actually be provided at a very low cost or essentially for free to schools around the country. And again, huge benefit for students who are receiving this product in their school meals, but an educational benefit too. I know they do host field trips there as well. And finally, the InterTribal Buffalo Council received one of the Farm to School grants a few years ago, and they did quite a bit of education with school food service professionals on how to incorporate bison into school meal programs, recipes at scale. They brought in ranchers to schools, as you can see here in the picture, to talk with students about how bison are raised, and they also did a number of taste tests with students and education around the traditional importance of the buffalo. So another great tribal farm to school example. So I wanted to shift gears here for just a few minutes and go over the USDA Farm to School grant program. And feel free to take notes, but I'll also provide a copy of this PowerPoint, and I understand that the PowerPoint will also be recorded. So don't worry too much about taking detailed notes. So the Farm to School grant program is written into the same law that I mentioned that created a Farm to School program at USDA, and it provides about $5 million a year to grant projects all around the country. And it's been happening since 2013. The main purpose of the grants is to increase the availability of local foods in schools, through a number of different activities. So the grant projects can involve training, planning for their farm-to-school program, deepening their partnerships, all sorts of different activities, all designed to increase the amount of local food served in schools. So there's a lot on this slide here, and I wanted to go through the 3 primary grant tracks. So on the left, you can see that they are planning, implementation, and training. So first, the planning grants are designed to really take that dedicated time with your community to map out a farm-to-school plan for your team. And so this is about setting aside the meetings to do that, perhaps going and visiting other communities with farm-to-school programs that you aspire to copy or do some R&D with, rip-off and duplication. These grants are either a year or 2 years, and the funding for them is between $20,000 and $50,000. So a significant amount of money to really set aside that time to plan out a thoughtful farm-to-school program. Implementation grants are for when your team already has an idea of a farm-to-school project they want to accomplish, and the grant funds help work towards that. So let's say you already have experience with farm-to-school, you already have tried some things out, you already have a plan, and you need some funding to get over a hoop or hurdle. And that says 12 to 24 months. It is actually 12 to 24 months. And the funding for implementation grants is between $50,000 and $100,000. Training grants are for when you want to host a specific training or series of trainings centered on farm to school. This is a 1-year grant only, and it's $20,000 to $50,000. So let's dig in a little bit more about who can apply. So schools, of course, can apply, but they have to participate in USDA's National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program. Because this is a USDA grant, it is awarded to schools that are participating in those USDA programs. State and local agencies, so let's say a Department of Agriculture, Department of Education, a local health department may apply. Indian tribal organizations and organizations that serve Native American individuals, small and medium-sized agricultural producers, or let's say a group of cooperative of farmers could apply, and nonprofit entities. So quite a range of folks may apply for these grants. I will say that schools are awarded half of the grant funds. So schools don't have to worry about, let's say, competing against a nonprofit organization with an entire grant writing team, let's say. Schools are earmarked, so to speak, for half the funds. Unfortunately, there are a couple of folks who are not eligible to apply. Colleges and universities, cooperative extension, individuals, and hospitals are a couple examples of folks who cannot apply. They can, however, be key project partners and receive funds as a contractor or a project partner on the grant, except for individuals, unless they are indeed a consultant. So again, as I'm going through this, make sure you're writing down your questions, and we'll have a good chance to discuss those afterwards. So every year, based on the administration's priorities, we have grant priorities. So like I mentioned, school districts are priority applicants. They receive 50% of the grant funds. Additionally, I wanted to highlight that applications serving tribal communities are priority applications. Therefore, they will receive a bump in the scoring and selection process. So that's definitely something to note. projects reaching more than one school, so when schools partner together, or let's say a nonprofit organization applies to help out a couple of different schools, will receive priority. And then projects that serve a high proportion of children eligible for free and reduced price meals, so 40% or more, will receive a priority boost in the selection process. A few other tidbits about the grant program. The applicant has to provide 25% of their asking as a match. So 25% of the total project budget, so the grant itself and what the applicant is putting up has to be a 75-25 split. And there are a number of ways that you can reach that match. For example, the value of a volunteer's time, hourly time, can be used towards a match. USDA coordinates the CACFP and SFSP. Those acronyms mean Child and Adult Care Feeding Program and Summer Food Service Program. So CACFP is largely what child care centers and family daycare homes can use to reimburse their meals. Those sites may not apply on their own unless they're located at a school that's eligible for the grant. So the grant project has to serve a school program, a school-based program, except for training grants. So if someone proposes to train all of the family daycare homes on farm to school in Missouri, they would be eligible for that training grant. If an organization received a grant last year or the year before, they may not apply as the lead applicant. They may receive funding as a project partner, but they can't apply as that lead applicant. If your school or organization received a planning grant, however, you can apply for an implementation grant. Your planning grant just has to be wrapped up before the grant application deadline. Finally, I wanted to mention that there are two types of reports that are required by this grant. There are financial reports, where every quarter you are reporting on how much money you spent. And then every 6 months, there are progress reports, where you're reporting out on what project activities you completed. And then there's also a baseline and a final report. Okay. So if you're interested in this grant program, there are a couple of resources that I would steer you towards to learn more about this opportunity. There's the RFA, which is the request for applications. That's the big long document actually that you will respond to on grants.gov in order to apply. There's a frequently asked questions document that is really valuable. There's a list of all of the past Farm to School grant awards, so you can get a feel for what types of projects are typically funded. There's also a sample narrative of actual full application that you can look at. So I'm going to steer us over here to our resources for grant program applicants website. So this is where you can find the request for applications, the frequently asked questions. You'll find the information about 2 upcoming webinars actually next week on how to apply and how to develop a strong application, some resources around getting started, and some technical instructions on how to actually fill out some of the information in the RFA, and that sample budget narrative that I mentioned. And I don't think I said this yet, but the grants are due December 4th. So you have just under 2 months here if you're interested in applying. So we're going to go back to this PowerPoint. Again, just take note of these 2 webinar opportunities. I would highly recommend tuning into those if you're interested in applying. So before we get to questions and answers, I just wanted to share a couple other resources that our office has put together. We have all sorts of exciting fact sheets, and here are just a couple of them. I would recommend you check out our website where you can find these fact sheets as well as other farm to school recorded webinars, resources, tools, and information. One of my favorite resources we have is our Farm to School Toolkit. This is kind of a step-by-step planning guide to help folks who are very new to the concept of farm to school just think about how to get started. Our e-newsletter is called The Dirt, and it has, it's typically every other week or once a month, chock full of some great information for you, and I would definitely recommend signing up for that. And the website where you can subscribe as well as find all of the other resources I talked about is usda.gov/farm-to-school. And here is my information. I'll close with this delicious looking meal. This was actually from Cherokee Central. It was a fall harvest festival that they hosted featuring local and traditional foods. And I would love to open it up for questions at this point.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea. That was a lot of great information. Like she said, does anyone have any questions for Andrea? Again, if you don't have a microphone, you can type it in the chat and I can read it for you.
Andrea, this is Jennifer Williams. I just had a quick question in regards of contacting or sending in applications. Do they send them directly to you? Do they send them to the person that's the tribal liaison? Does it make a difference?
Great question. So actually, applications are submitted through grants.gov. So it's a website that formally collects all federal government grant applications. And so on that website I shared, here, I'm going to bring it back up again here. So when that person clicks on Farm to School Request for Applications, it will actually take them to grants.gov, and they can learn those instructions for filling out the grant in grants.gov right here. Okay, so do not send it to me or to Samantha. Definitely submit it through grants.gov. Samantha or I can answer any questions you have about the application process for sure.
Thanks, Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any questions? I am putting a evaluation link in the chat box just now. If you can take the time before getting off the call to click on that and answer a few questions about the webinar. And if no one else has any more questions, this is a recorded webinar, so I will be sending out the recorded session in a follow-up email, and if Andrea wishes, I will also attach her PowerPoint slides to the email.
Great, and yeah, as you're perhaps checking out this opportunity, feel free to reach out with any questions. feel free to please share this grant opportunity with your contacts who might be interested, and we really hope you'll consider it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrea, for presenting. Just real quick before signing off, our next webinar is going to be on November 14th, and we will have a presenter from the International Traditional Games Society presenting on different traditional games and some of the programs that they offer. So again, thank you, Andrea. We really appreciate it, and we'll hopefully see you all next month.
Thank you.